My parents gave my brother my car, then I reported it stolen. My parents thought they were just giving my brother a nice gift. A grand gesture to help him out. The problem was my car. So, I did the only thing I could think of, the only option they left me. I reported it stolen. And that single decision, that one phone call, kicked off a legal and emotional firestorm that could have sent me to jail and ripped my family apart for good. This is the story of how my family's sense of entitlement turned into a criminal matter, and how I had to choose between my own self-respect and the people I was supposed to trust most. Okay, so to really understand this whole disaster, you need to understand that this isn't just about a car. It's about what that car represented to me. It was the physical proof of my independence, a monument to my hard work. The first truly significant thing I had ever earned and owned entirely by myself. It was a 2021 Honda Civic, nothing outrageously fancy, but it was mine. I didn't get a sweet 16 car, I didn't get a graduation present. I worked for it. I spent my entire last year of college working 2 jobs. I was bussing tables on weekends, dealing with demanding customers and sticky floors until 2 a.m., and then I was up at dawn to get to my weeknight job stocking shelves at a grocery store. I lived on instant noodles and free coffee from the break room. I missed parties, I missed hanging out with friends, all so I could scrape together every single dollar for the down payment. I spent months buried in consumer reports and car blogs, researching reliability and safety ratings. I walked into that dealership alone, armed with my research, and negotiated the price myself. And every single monthly payment, every insurance bill, came straight from my bank account. A painful but proud reminder of my achievement. That car was my pride and joy. It wasn't just a way to get from A to B. It was proof that I could stand on my own 2 feet. This is crucial because, in my family, I was always the one who had to stand on my own 2 feet. I have a younger brother. Let's call him Kevin, and to put it mildly, he is the golden child. While I was clocking in for my second shift, Kevin was, well, finding himself, which was a convenient euphemism for playing video games and job hopping. While I was meticulously budgeting every penny, he was constantly calling our parents for money to cover his latest misadventure. And they always gave it. His rent would magically get paid, his phone bill was always covered, and whenever he found himself in some kind of trouble, they were right there to bail him out, no questions asked. There was the time he wrecked their old minivan and they just shrugged and bought him another used car. Or the time he racked up credit card debt and they drained their savings to pay it off. I, on the other hand, was the responsible one. That sounds like a compliment, but what it really meant was that I was the one they never had to worry about helping. I was just expected to handle my own business, quietly and without complaint. So, the story really starts when I got back home after a long weekend away. It was a much-needed break from work, a little trip I had saved up for months to take. I pulled into my parents' driveway where I always park since my apartment has limited space, and the first thing I noticed was an empty spot. My space. A cold, sinking knot of panic instantly formed in the pit of my stomach. My car is gone. Your mind just races through the worst-case scenarios. Was it towed? Stolen? I ran inside, my heart pounding against my ribs. I burst into the living room and my voice was tight with anxiety when I asked my parents, "Where's my car?" My mom looked up from her book, her expression placid, completely unfazed. "Oh honey, you're back," she said with a little smile. "We gave the car to Kevin. His old one finally died for good this time and he needs a reliable way to get to that new job. Isn't that great?" I just stood there speechless. I couldn't even process the words. She said it so casually, so breezily, like she'd just given him some leftover lasagna from the fridge. My dad chimed in from his armchair, not even looking up from the TV. He was so thrilled. It's a really good car to get him started. They were both smiling. Genuinely, proudly smiling, as if they had just performed the most wonderful charitable act in the world. They had taken my property, the single most valuable thing I owned, the symbol of my sweat and sacrifice, and had just gifted it to my brother without so much as a phone call or a text. That initial shock quickly evaporated and curdled into a white-hot rage I have never felt before in my entire life. It was so intense it felt like a physical force. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "You gave him my car?" I asked, emphasizing every word. "The car that I am still paying a loan on? The one that is registered and titled exclusively in my name?" My dad finally put down his newspaper and waved his hand dismissively. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just a car. Family helps family. You're doing fine for yourself. You can figure something out. Your brother needed it. The condescension, the absolute lack of respect was suffocating. I felt like I was losing my mind. Without another word, I pulled out my phone and called Kevin. He picked up on the second ring and you could practically hear the smug grin in his voice. Hey sis. Hear the good news. Got a sweet new ride. My blood ran cold. I told him, my voice dangerously low, that he had 5 seconds to tell me this was all some kind of sick, elaborate joke. He laughed. He actually laughed. What's the big deal? Mom and Dad said it was fine. They had the spare key, you know. You're successful. You can just get another one. I really need this for my job. That was it. That was the precise moment something in me snapped. The sheer, uncut, breathtaking entitlement. They didn't just take my car. They felt they had a right to it. They saw my hard work, my sacrifices, not as mine, but as some kind of family slush fund they could dip into whenever it suited them to prop up my brother. I turned back to my parents, my voice now shaking with fury. This is not a discussion. You stole my car and I want it back. No. I need Kevin's address so I can go get it. Their response was to double down. My mother told me I was being selfish and ungrateful. Ungrateful? For what? For them giving away my property? My father accused me of not loving my brother. They insisted it was for the best and that I needed to stop making everything so difficult. They were actively blocking me from retrieving my own property. They had backed me into a corner. They took what was mine and were now gaslighting me into feeling guilty for wanting it back. What choice did they possibly leave me? My mind was racing. What do you even do in a situation like this? They wouldn't listen to reason. They wouldn't give me the location of my car. And then a strange sense of clarity washed over me. I started thinking about the legal side of it. And it's actually crystal clear. To gift someone a car, you have to actually own it. You need to hold the lien-free title, sign it over, create a bill of sale, and go through the whole process at the DMV. My parents had done none of that. The title was locked in a safe box in my apartment in my name. The loan from the bank, which I was still paying off, was in my name. Legally, they had no more right to give that car away than a complete stranger on the street. Their gift was a complete and utter fiction. So I did the only thing I could. I left their house, sat in my rental car, and drove to the police station. Walking into that police station was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. I felt weirdly calm, like I was watching myself in a movie. The officer at the front desk was patient and listened quietly while I laid out the entire situation. I didn't get emotional. I didn't scream about my family drama or the years of favoritism. I just stated the facts. My car was taken from my parents' driveway without my permission. I am the sole registered owner and I know who has it. I provided the make, model, VIN, and license plate number. I showed him my registration and insurance documents on my phone. The officer asked the critical question, "Are you willing to press charges?" I looked him right in the eye and without a moment of hesitation I said, yes. Because my car has modern telematics, a GPS tracker for emergencies. It was ridiculously easy for the police to find. Within a couple of hours they had located it. It was parked at an apartment complex in the next town over, right where Kevin was staying with a friend. They ran the plates and, boom, the system flagged it as a stolen vehicle. When Kevin walked out of his apartment the next morning, probably feeling on top of the world as he headed off to that important new job, the police were waiting for him. He was arrested on the spot for grand theft auto. The first phone call I received was from my mother. It wasn't a call. It was a hysterical screech that was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "How could you do this to your family?" she shrieked. "You're sending your own brother to jail. He's going to have a criminal record. You've ruined his life." There was no acknowledgement of their role, no apology. It was all my fault. Then the texts from my dad started flooding in. I was a disgrace, a monster, and I was dead to him. Like a virus, the news spread through my extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in months, all calling and texting to tell me what a horrible person I was, how I'd torn the family apart over a stupid lump of metal. I was officially uninvited from Christmas, future birthdays, everything. In the span of just a few hours, I had been completely excommunicated. I had become the family villain. And this is where the real battle begins, with my entire family declaring war on me to defend my brother in a court of law. If you're enjoying this story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you will not believe what happened next. Of course, My parents immediately sprang into action. Not to apologize but to hire a lawyer for Kevin. Their entire defense was built on the flimsy notion that it was all a big misunderstanding, a family gift. They were fully prepared to go to court and testify under oath that they had given Kevin the car. But here's the thing about the law. It doesn't care about your intentions, it cares about the facts. A gift isn't just about what you intend, you have to have the legal authority to give it. You can't give away what you don't own. My case, on the other hand, was brutally simple. I had the title in my name only. I had the loan agreement from the bank which I was still dutifully paying. I had every single receipt for my payments and insurance. It was an open and shut case. Their lawyer, in a move of desperation, even tried to argue that I should be the one charged with a crime for filing a false police report. That threat was terrifying. The idea that I could go to jail for reporting a legitimate theft sent a chill down my spine. But the argument just fell completely flat. To be guilty of filing a false report, you have to have lied with the specific intent to deceive the police. I didn't lie about a single thing. My car was legally mine and it was taken and kept from me against my will. My report wasn't false. It was just the inconvenient truth they didn't want to face. When the district attorney's office reviewed all the evidence, my title, my loan documents, their complete lack of ownership, they saw the situation just as clearly as I did. My brother's lawyer was informed in no uncertain terms that Kevin was facing a serious grand theft auto charge, a felony that could follow him for the rest of his life. Facing a case they had absolutely no chance of winning, the DA offered Kevin a plea deal. If he returned the car immediately, pleaded guilty to a lesser misdemeanor for unauthorized use of a vehicle, completed 100 hours of community service, and attended a court-mandated counseling session, they'd drop the felony charge. My parents were incandescent with fury. Not only had their scheme to get a free car for their golden child failed spectacularly, but now they had to drain their savings on his legal fees, and he would still end up with a criminal record. It was the exact disaster they had tried to avoid. A disaster created entirely by their own arrogance and sense of entitlement. With no other real choice, Kevin took the plea deal. He had to stand up in a courtroom, admit that he was guilty and finally, for once in his life, accept the consequences of his actions without his parents being able to make it all go away. A few days later, the police escorted me to the impound lot to retrieve my car. It was a miserable gray afternoon that matched my mood. The car was filthy, caked in mud and littered with fast food wrappers. There were several new, deep scratches down the passenger side door. Seeing it like that felt like a personal violation. Driving it home was one of the strangest, most conflicting feelings of my life. I felt this surge of victory, of vindication, but it was hollow and bitter. I had won, but what had I really lost? The fallout with my family has been total and absolute. They have completely cut me off. In their version of the story, the one they tell to anyone who will listen, I am the cruel, vindictive villain who chose a material object over her own brother. They completely refused to see the part they played in creating this entire mess. They stole from me, they dismissed my feelings, they lied, and then they had the nerve to be shocked when I used the only tool they left me, the law. People sometimes ask me if it was worth it. And it's a difficult question. In a very real way, I lost my family. But the truth is, maybe the family I thought I had was never really there to begin with. A family that respects you doesn't treat your hard-earned property like a community toy box. A family that loves you doesn't demand that you set yourself on fire just to keep them warm. This was never really about the car. It was about respect. It was about finally drawing a line in the sand and defending myself after a lifetime of being pushed aside and taken for granted. For that reason, I don't regret it. I got my car back, but more importantly, I finally got my self-respect back. So, let's talk about the big question everyone asks. Was I the bad guy for calling the cops on my own brother? Honestly, looking back, what other choice did I have? My parents and my brother created a situation where my only options were to either be a doormat and accept the theft of my own property, or to use the legal system to enforce my rights. When you corner someone, when you systematically ignore their rights, their feelings, and their ownership, you can't act surprised when they finally push back with the only option you've left them. This wasn't just some petty family squabble that got out of hand. It was theft. Plain and simple. But I really want to know what you all think. Was this a matter of righteous justice, or did I go too far and break the family code? Would you have let your family walk all over you for the sake of keeping the peace? Or would you have made that same call to the police? Let me know down in the comments. In the end, I got my property back, but the cost was undeniably huge. A family was torn apart not by a car, but by a deep-seated culture of entitlement and a complete lack of respect. It's a tough and painful lesson that the phrase "family helps family" cannot be a one-way street, and it's certainly not an excuse for taking what isn't yours. The law is pretty clear on this. Ownership is about whose name is on the title. You simply cannot give away things that do not belong to you. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and tell us where you are watching from.